Captain Lee Minho rubbed his eyes and looked at the screen again. The coffee in his cup had gone cold an hour ago, but he kept holding it anyway. Outside the bridge windows of the exploration ship Resilience, space looked wrong. "Hana, are you sure we took the right jump?" Minho asked his navigator. Choi Hana checked her instruments for the 5th time. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel. "The coordinates were correct, Captain. But this is not where we should be." The star system around them was huge. Massive metal structures floated in space like small moons. Strange ships moved between them in perfect lines. Everything was too organized, too planned. It looked like someone had been building here for thousands of years. "Well, this is interesting," said Dr. Park Yuna from her science station. She was already taking readings of everything she could see. "Captain, I think we found our first alien civilization." Engineer Kim J looked up from his repair work. "About time. I was getting bored fixing the same old problems." He walked over to look at the main screen. Wow, they really like building big things, don't they? Before anyone could answer, the ship's communication system came alive. A deep, angry voice filled the bridge. The words were in a language none of them knew, but the tone was clear. Someone was not happy to see them. "Translation coming through now," Yuna said, working at her console. "The computer is picking up the language patterns." The voice became clearer. "Unknown vessel, you have entered the sacred space of the Korthak Empire. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. You have 1 minute to comply." Minho set down his coffee cup and straightened his uniform. "Jay, how are our systems?" "Everything's working fine, Captain. Engines are good, shields are up. Though I have to say, their ships look really complicated. Too many unnecessary parts. Hana, can you plot us a way out of here?" Hana's fingers danced over her controls. "I can see 3 possible escape routes. But Captain, those ships are moving to surround us. They're fast." The alien voice spoke again, angrier this time. 30 seconds remain. Prepare to be boarded." Minho looked around at his crew. They all seemed calm. Yuna was still taking readings. Jay was studying the alien ships with professional interest. Hana had already mapped their possible exits. This was just another day for them. "Open a channel," Minho said. "Channel open, Captain." Minho cleared his throat. "This is Captain Lee Minho of the Earth vessel Resilience. We seem to have taken a wrong turn somewhere. We're peaceful explorers from the planet Earth. We'd like to request information about your customs and immigration procedures." There was silence on the other end. Then the voice came back, sounding confused. "Your customs procedures?" "Yes. We're not sure what the proper protocol is for entering your space. We apologize for any inconvenience. Do you have forms we need to fill out? Are there fees we need to pay?" Yuna looked up from her console and whispered, "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from those ships. They could destroy us easily." Minho nodded and spoke into the communicator again. "We're also interested in learning about your culture and possibly establishing trade relations. Do you have anyone we could speak to about that?" The silence lasted, longer this time. Finally, the voice returned. It sounded less angry and more puzzled. You wish to establish trade relations?" "If possible, yes. We have some interesting technologies that might be useful to you. And we're always looking for new ideas to bring back to Earth." Jay leaned over to Hana. "Their ship designs are really inefficient. Look at all that extra armor plating. It must slow them down a lot." Hana nodded. "And their formation flying is sloppy. They're wasting fuel with those wide turns." The alien voice spoke again. "You will be brought aboard our command ship for processing. Do not attempt to resist, or you will be destroyed." "That sounds reasonable," Minho replied. "We'll need a few minutes to prepare. Should we bring any documentation? Passports? Medical records?" Another long pause. "Bring documentation? Standard procedure for crossing borders, isn't it? We want to follow your laws." Yuna was grinning now. She found the whole situation fascinating. "Captain, this is amazing. First contact with an alien empire. Think of what we can learn." "Just remember to be polite," Minho told his crew. "We're guests in their space." A massive ship moved closer to them. It was 10 times the size of the Resilience, covered in weapons and armor. It looked like it was built to frighten enemies. The ship opened a docking bay that could have held 20 human vessels. Follow the guidance beams, the alien voice commanded. Hana piloted them into the alien ship with smooth precision. Nice docking system, she commented, though they could improve the approach vectors. As they landed, Minho looked at his crew. Remember, we're representing all of humanity here. Let's make a good impression. Should we be worried? Jay asked, but he didn't sound worried. He sounded curious. About what? Minho replied. They seem organized and civilized. That's more than we can say about some places on Earth. Yuna was already packing her equipment. I want to get samples of their atmosphere, take readings of their biology. This is the greatest discovery in human history. Through the ship's cameras, they watched alien figures approaching. The creatures were tall and covered in dark armor. They carried weapons that glowed with energy. They moved with military precision. They look efficient, Minho observed. I like that in people. The aliens surrounded their ship. One of them spoke into a device, and the translation came through clearly. Emerge from your vessel slowly. Keep your hands visible. Minho stood up and checked his appearance in a mirror. How do I look? Professional? Very professional, Captain, Yuna assured him. They walked to the airlock together. Minho was thinking about what questions to ask about their society. Yuna was wondering about their biology and culture. Jay was curious about their technology. Hana was already memorizing the layout of their ship. None of them looked afraid. The airlock opened, and they stepped out to meet the aliens. The creatures were even larger up close, nearly 8 feet tall. Their armor was covered in symbols and decorations. They held their weapons ready, but not quite pointed at the humans. The lead alien spoke. I am Subcommander Dalnin of the Korthak Empire. You are now prisoners of the Empire. Minho stepped forward and offered his hand. Pleased to meet you, Subcommander. I'm Captain Lee Minho. This is Dr. Park Yuna, Engineer Kim Jae, and Navigator Choi Hana. Thank you for accommodating us. Dalnin stared at the offered hand. He had clearly never seen this gesture before. It's called a handshake, Yuna explained helpfully. It's how humans greet each other. It shows we're friendly. You are friendly? Dalnin asked. You are prisoners. You should be afraid. Jay looked around at the alien technology surrounding them. This is fascinating. How do you generate power for a ship this size? The energy requirements must be enormous. You are not afraid, Dalnin said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of confusion. Should we be? Minho asked. You seem like reasonable people. I'm sure we can work something out. Dalnin looked at his fellow soldiers. They all seemed as confused as he was. This was not how prisoners were supposed to behave. Come, Dalnin said finally. You will be taken for questioning. Excellent, Yuna said. Will we be able to ask questions too? We're very interested in learning about your society. As they walked through the alien ship, the humans looked around with obvious interest. They admired the architecture, commented on the efficient design, and asked questions about everything they saw. The aliens escorting them grew more confused with each step. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. The interrogation room was designed to be frightening. The walls were black metal with sharp edges. Strange symbols glowed red in the darkness. The chairs were uncomfortable. The lighting came from above, casting harsh shadows on anyone sitting below. Admiral Vextar watched the humans through a hidden camera before entering. He wanted to see how they reacted to the intimidating environment. Most prisoners cowered in fear when brought to this room. Some begged, others tried to break. Free from their restraints, the humans were having a conversation about the furniture. The ergonomics are terrible, Jay was saying, shifting in his chair. No back support at all. They must have serious workplace injury problems. The lighting is interesting, though, Yuna added, looking up at the harsh spotlights. Very dramatic. I wonder if it's meant to create psychological pressure. Minho was examining the restraints that held him to his chair. These are well made, good metal work, though they could use some padding for comfort. Hana was quietly studying the room's layout, noting the camera positions and exit locations. Standard interrogation setup, she murmured to herself. Though, they could improve the acoustics. Admiral Vexatar entered the room with his most intimidating stride. He was 9 feet tall, covered in ceremonial armor that had seen many battles. Scars crossed his face, and his eyes glowed yellow in the dim light. Behind him came Interrogator Kelmoth, a specialist in breaking the minds of prisoners. The humans looked up with polite interest. "I am Admiral Vextar, commander of the Third Fleet of the Korthak Empire," he announced in his deepest, most threatening voice. "You have violated our sacred space. You will answer our questions or face terrible consequences." Minho nodded respectfully. "Thank you for taking the time to meet with us, Admiral. We appreciate your hospitality, and we're sorry for any inconvenience our arrival may have caused." Vexatar blinked. Prisoners did not thank him for his hospitality. Interrogator Kelmoth stepped forward. His specialty was fear. He had broken the minds of warriors from dozens of different species. "I am Kelmoth. I will ask you questions, and you will answer. If you lie, you will suffer." "That seems fair," Yuna said. "Though I hope you don't mind if we ask some questions too. We're very curious about your society." Kelmoth looked at Admiral Vextar. This was not going according to plan. "Where do you come from?" Kelmoth demanded, trying to regain control. "Earth," Minho answered immediately. "It's a planet about 47 light years from here, though we're not entirely sure of the exact distance since we took an unexpected route." "What are your weapons?" "We have some basic defensive systems on our ship," Minho replied. "Nothing too advanced. We're explorers, not soldiers." "What is your military strength?" Minho thought for a moment. "Well, we have various military forces on Earth. Different countries have different capabilities. But honestly, we spend most of our time fighting each other, not exploring space." Kelmoth frowned. "You fight each other?" "Oh, yes," Jay said cheerfully. "Humans love fighting. We've had thousands of wars. World wars, civil wars, trade wars, cold wars. We're very creative about finding reasons to fight." "But you said you were peaceful," Vextar pointed out. "We are," Yuna explained. "Mostly. I mean, we're not currently fighting any major wars, just the usual small conflicts, political disputes, economic competition, nothing too serious." Kelmoth tried a different approach. "Do you fear death?" The humans looked at each other. "Well, we don't like it," Minho said. "But it's part of life, isn't it? Everyone dies eventually. We've had some pretty nasty plagues on Earth," Yuna added. "The Black Death killed about a third of Europe. The 1918 flu killed 50 million people. COVID-19 was a mess, too." "And wars," Jay continued. "World War II killed about 75 million people. World War I was about 20 million. Natural disasters," Hana added quietly. "Earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, hurricanes. The 2004 tsunami killed over 200,000 people in a single day." Kelmoth stared at them. "Your own planet tries to kill you?" "Oh yes," Minho said. "Constantly. Ice ages, asteroid impacts, supervolcano eruptions. Earth is a very dangerous place." "And you still live there?" "Where else would we go?" Yuna asked. "It's our home." Admiral Vextar leaned forward. "Are you not afraid of our weapons? Our power?" Jay shrugged. "Your technology is impressive. Though I have to say, your energy distribution systems could be more efficient. Are you using fusion reactors? The power output seems inconsistent." "We are not here to discuss engineering," Vextar said, though he was curious about Jay's observations. "Sorry," Jay said. "It's just interesting. We're always looking for new ideas." Kelmoth tried again. "I will show you images of what happens to those who oppose the Empire." He activated a holographic display showing destroyed planets, burning cities, conquered populations. The humans watched with professional interest. "Orbital bombardment?" Hana asked. "That's effective but expensive. How do you handle the supply logistics for campaigns this size?" "The refugee crisis must be enormous," Yuna observed. "How do you process that many displaced people?" "Clean destruction." "Pattern, though," Jay noted. "Very thorough. What's the energy yield on those weapons?" Kelmoth turned off the display. "These images are meant to terrify you." "Oh," Minho said. "Sorry, we didn't realize. They're certainly impressive. Very professional work." You have seen worse? Vexitar asked. Well, we've had our share of destruction on Earth, Yuna said. The firebombing of Dresden, the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the siege of Leningrad. Humans can be pretty thorough when we put our minds to it. You bombed your own cities? Different countries, Minho explained. We were at war with each other at the time. Admiral Vexitar sat down heavily. This was not how interrogations were supposed to work. What do you want from the Empire? He asked. Nothing really, Minho said. We were just exploring. Though if you're open to trade, we might be interested in cultural exchange. Cultural exchange? Learning about each other, Yuna explained. Science, art, philosophy, technology, that sort of thing. You want to learn from us? Kelmoth asked. Of course. You've obviously built an impressive civilization. We could learn a lot from you. And we could teach you things too, Jay added. Human engineering approaches might be useful to you. Vextar looked at Kelmoth. The interrogator shrugged helplessly. Are you not afraid of being prisoners? Vextar asked. Well, it's not ideal, Minho admitted. But you seem like reasonable people. I'm sure we can work something out. Maybe we could help each other somehow. Help each other? Sure. We have 40,000 years of experience dealing with problems. Crisis management, resource allocation, conflict resolution. We've gotten pretty good at surviving difficult situations. What kind of problems? Yuna started counting on her fingers. Climate change, pandemics, wars, economic collapse, social unrest, natural disasters, resource shortages, overpopulation, environmental destruction. Your planet sounds terrible, Vextar said. It has its challenges, Minho agreed. But we manage. Humans are very adaptable. Admiral Vextar stood up and paced around the room. In 40 years of military service, he had never encountered prisoners like these. They were polite, curious, and completely unafraid. They treated their capture like a business meeting. What would you do if we decided to invade your planet? He asked. Minho thought about it. That would be unfortunate. We'd probably fight back. Humans are good at fighting, though we'd prefer to find a peaceful solution. You would fight the entire Korthak Empire? If we had to, Hana said quietly. We've fought impossible odds before. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. But we keep trying. Why? Because it's better than giving up, Yuna said simply. Admiral Vextar looked at his interrogator. Kelmoth was staring at the humans with fascination instead of trying to break them. I think, Vexitar said slowly, we need to take you to meet the Emperor. That would be an honor, Minho said. Should we prepare anything special for the meeting? We want to make a good impression. Admiral Vexitar walked out of the room shaking. His head. In his long career, he had defeated enemy fleets, conquered star systems, and broken the will of entire species. But he had never met anyone quite like humans. Subcommander Dalnin had been assigned to escort the humans. His orders were to show them the power and glory of the Korthak Empire. The goal was to make them understand how hopeless it would be to resist. Admiral Vextar wanted them properly, intimidated before they met the Emperor. Dalnin was beginning to think this might be more difficult than expected. Their first stop was the prison planet Morketh. It was a dead world covered in massive concrete structures. Millions of prisoners from conquered species lived there in harsh conditions. The sight of it was supposed to break the spirit of anyone who saw it. The humans looked out the shuttle window with interest. Impressive construction, Jay observed. How do they handle the power distribution for a facility this size? The logistics must be incredibly complex, Hana added. Food, water, waste management for millions of people. Yuna was taking readings with her instruments. The atmospheric processors are working well. Good air quality inside the domes. Dalnin stared at them. This is a prison planet, a place of suffering and despair. Oh, Minho said. It's certainly grim. Though the architecture is solid, better than some places I've seen. Better than Detroit, Jay agreed. What is Detroit? Dalnin asked. A city on our planet, Minho explained. It had some rough times, high crime rates, economic collapse, urban decay. Though it's getting better now. Your cities collapse? Sometimes, Yuna said. Economic changes, natural disasters, poor planning, cities rise and fall. It happens. Dalnin took them down to tour the prison facilities. He showed them the cramped living quarters, the basic food distribution centers, the work areas where prisoners performed manual labor. The humans nodded thoughtfully as they walked through. The work programs are interesting, Minho commented. Giving people purpose helps with morale. Though they could improve the nutrition in those food rations, Yuna observed. Better protein sources would reduce health problems. The ventilation systems need upgrading, Jay noted. Better air circulation would prevent disease outbreaks. Dalnin stopped walking. You are giving advice on how to improve a prison planet? Well, you want it to run efficiently, don't you? Minho asked. Healthy prisoners are more productive prisoners. Besides, Yuna added, treating people well is just basic decency. These are enemies of the Empire. Were they born enemies? Hana asked, quietly. Or did they become enemies because of how they were treated? Dalnin had no answer for that. Their next stop was the War Memorial on Korth Prime, the Empire's capital world. Massive statues showed Korthak warriors conquering their enemies. Holographic displays showed the great battles of Imperial history. The memorial was designed to inspire fear and respect for Korthak military power. The humans studied the displays carefully. Your military history is extensive, Minho said. How many species have you conquered? 73, Dalnin answered proudly. Impressive. We've only had wars with ourselves, but we've been very thorough about it. Yuna was reading the battle descriptions. This siege lasted 12 years? That's dedication. The longest siege in human history was 20 years, Hana mentioned. The siege of Sota, though some argue it was longer. You besieged your own cities for 20 years? Dalnin asked. Different factions, Jay explained. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We're very experienced at warfare. Dalnin led them to a display showing the conquest of the Veltar system. This battle destroyed an entire species. They refused to surrender, so we eliminated them completely. The humans studied the tactical information with professional interest. Poor strategy on their part, Minho observed. They should have used hit-and-run tactics instead of direct confrontation. Fanatics, Yuna said sadly. We've had groups like that on Earth. They prefer death to surrender. The kamikaze pilots in World War II, Hana added. They flew their planes into enemy ships. Your people do this too? When they believe strongly enough in something, Minho said. Humans can be very stubborn. Their next destination was the weapons testing facility on Zarth Al. Dalnin showed them the Empire's most powerful weapon, a device that could destroy entire planets. The demonstration target was a small moon. The humans watched as the moon simply vanished in a flash of energy. That's quite impressive, Jay said, checking his instruments. Though the energy requirements must be enormous, very inefficient. Inefficient? Dalnin asked. You're destroying the entire planet, Jay explained. That's wasteful. If you just wanted to eliminate the population, biological weapons would be much more efficient. Or orbital bombardment, Hana suggested. Cheaper, and you can still use the planet afterward. We had a scientist on Earth who calculated that nuclear weapons could destroy our entire civilization, Yuna said. We built enough of them to destroy the world several times over. Why would you build so many? Politics, Minho said with a shrug. Different countries didn't trust each other, so everyone built bigger and bigger weapons. Did you use them? Twice, Yuna said. Then we realized how dangerous they were and mostly stopped testing them. Mostly? Some countries still test them occasionally, Hana said, but not as much as before. Dalnin was quiet for a long time as they flew to the next destination. Their final stop was the conquered world of Nalbeth. It had once been home to a proud warrior species. Now it was a tribute world, its people forced to provide resources to the Empire. Dalnin showed them the resource extraction facilities and the subdued population. The humans observed everything, carefully. How long have they been conquered? Minho asked. 50 years. And they still resist? Some do. We execute the rebels when we find them. Yuna shook her head. That's counterproductive. The executions just create more rebels. What would you do? Education programs, Minho suggested. Job training, economic development. Give them a stake in the system. We tried that with reconstruction after our wars, Hana explained. It works better than oppression. You rebuilt your enemies? Usually, Jay said. It's more profitable than keeping them as enemies. The Marshall Plan after World War II, Yuna added. We rebuilt Japan and Germany. They became our allies. You fought them and then helped them? It made sense, Minho said. Healthy trading partners are better than bitter enemies. Dalnin looked down at the conquered world below them. You think we are doing this wrong? It's not our place to judge, Minho said diplomatically. But from our experience, cooperation works better than conquest in the long run. Though your military is certainly effective, Hana added. Very professional. Your logistics are excellent. Too, Jay noted. Maintaining an empire this size requires serious organizational skills. Dalnin was quiet during the flight back to the command ship. The humans had reacted to everything with calm observation and practical analysis. Nothing had frightened them. Nothing had impressed them beyond professional admiration. Are you not amazed by our power? He finally asked. It's impressive, Minho said. You've built a remarkable civilization. But you are not afraid? Should we be? Yuna asked. You seem like reasonable people. I'm sure we can find common ground. We could destroy your entire species. Yes, Hana said quietly. You probably could, but what would be the point? The point? What would you gain from destroying us? Minho asked. We're not a threat to you. We might even be useful. Useful how? We have different perspectives, Jay explained. Different approaches to problems. That could be valuable. You have conquered many species, Yuna said. But have any of them ever offered to help you solve problems? Dalnin thought about that. In 40 years of military service, he had never encountered a conquered species that offered cooperation instead of resistance. Why would you help us? Because it's better than fighting, Minho said simply. We'd rather be friends than enemies. As they docked with the command ship, Dalnin realized something had changed during their tour. He had started the day trying to intimidate the humans. Now he found himself curious about their ideas. Admiral Vextar was waiting for them in the docking. They? Well, he asked Dalnin. Are they properly intimidated? Dalnin looked at the humans who were discussing the technical aspects of the docking procedure with obvious interest. No, sir, he said. But I think we should listen to what they have to say. Admiral Vextar followed his gaze to the humans. They were examining the docking bay systems and quietly discussing improvements that could be made. By the 7 moons, Vextar muttered. What kind of species are these humans? The throne room of Emperor Morthak was designed to inspire absolute terror. It was a vast chamber carved from black stone, lit only by flames that burned without fuel. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above. Ancient weapons lined the walls, trophies from conquered worlds. The throne itself was made from the bones of enemies, and the Emperor sat wrapped in shadows that seemed to move on their own. Captain Minho walked into the chamber carrying a small briefcase. Behind him, his crew followed with their usual calm professionalism. Yuna had her scientific instruments. Jay carried a tablet with technical drawings. Hana held a navigation chart she had been working on. Emperor Morthok had ruled the Korthak Empire for over 300 years. He had conquered star systems, destroyed civilizations, and broken the will of countless species. His voice could shake mountains. His presence could drive warriors to madness. The humans looked around with obvious interest. Fascinating architecture, Minho commented quietly. The acoustics must be incredible. The flame technology is impressive, Jay whispered. I wonder how they achieve combustion without an oxygen source. The psychological impact is very well designed, Yuna observed, though it might be counterproductive for daily administrative work. Emperor Morthak spoke, and his voice filled the entire chamber like thunder. Mortals, you stand before Morthak the Destroyer, master of 1,000 worlds, emperor of the Korthak. Tremble in despair. Minho stepped forward and bowed politely. Your Majesty, thank you for agreeing to meet with us. I'm Captain Lee Minho of the Exploration. Vessel resilience. These are my senior officers. The Emperor leaned forward on his bone throne. You do not tremble. Should we be trembling, Your Majesty? Minho asked. We're honored by this audience. I have destroyed civilizations older than your species. Your military achievements are certainly impressive, Minho agreed. Though if I may say so, you might be interested in some alternative approaches we've developed on Earth. Alternative approaches? Minho opened his briefcase and pulled out a tablet. We took the liberty of preparing a brief presentation on governance efficiency. Would Your Majesty be interested in seeing it? High Counselor Zephyra, who stood beside the throne, whispered urgently to the Emperor. Sire, they prepared a presentation? Emperor Morthak stared at the humans. In 300 years of rule, no one had ever offered him a presentation. Show me, he said. Minho activated the tablet, and a holographic display appeared in the air. Now, we understand that maintaining an empire of this size presents significant logistical challenges. Based on what we've observed, you're doing an excellent job overall, but there are some areas where efficiency could be improved. The first slide showed a chart of the empire's administrative structure. Your current system has 73 layers of bureaucracy between the emperor and the average citizen, Minho explained. This creates communication delays and reduces response time to local problems. What do you suggest? Zephyra asked, despite herself. Delegation of authority, Hana said, stepping forward with her own charts. Create regional administrators with decision-making power for routine issues. Reserve the central authority for major policy decisions. We tried a similar system on Earth, Yuna added. Federalism. It allows for local flexibility while maintaining central coordination. Jay activated his tablet. Also, your resource distribution network has some bottlenecks. If you restructured the supply chains, you could reduce transportation costs by approximately 30%. Emperor Morthak found himself looking at shipping routes and supply charts instead of inspiring terror. You have studied our empire? He asked. Just basic observations, Minho said. But we have a lot of experience with large-scale organization. Earth has over 200 separate governments managing 8 billion people. 200 governments? Different countries, Yuna explained. They compete and cooperate at the same time. It's complicated, but it works. How do you prevent them from fighting? Oh, they fight sometimes, Minho admitted. But mostly they're too busy trading with each other to bother with wars. The Emperor gestured to Zephyra. Ask them about the rebellion in the Outer Rim. Zephyra stepped forward. We have been fighting insurgents in the Outer Rim territories for 20 years. They refuse to submit despite our superior force. How would humans handle this situation? The crew exchanged glances. What do the rebels want? Yuna asked. They want independence from the Empire. Why? Minho asked. They claim we are oppressing them. Are you? Hana asked directly. Zephyra looked shocked. They are subjects of the Empire. They should be grateful for our protection. Protection from what? Jay asked. From chaos. From other empires. Have you asked them what they actually want? Minho suggested. Ask them? Negotiations, Yuna explained. Find out what their real concerns are. Maybe you can address them without giving up control. We do not negotiate with rebels. Why not? Hana asked. If you can solve the problem without fighting, everyone wins. It would show weakness. Would it? Minho asked. On Earth, we've learned that flexibility is actually a sign of strength. Emperor Morthak leaned back in his throne. Tell me about these negotiations. For the next hour, the humans explained conflict resolution techniques they had developed on Earth. They talked about mediation, compromise, economic incentives, and cultural autonomy. They showed examples of successful peace processes from human history. The Good Friday Agreement in Northern Ireland, Yuna explained. Decades of conflict resolved through careful negotiation. The Camp David Accords, Minho added. Long-standing enemies finding common ground. Most conflicts happen because people feel they're not being heard, Hana observed. Give them a voice in their own governance, and the fighting usually stops. Zephyra was taking notes on everything they said. What about species that refuse to cooperate? The Emperor asked. That happens, Jay admitted. Some groups are genuinely hostile, but most people just want to live their lives in peace. Your empire is impressive because of its size and power, Minho said. But it could be even more impressive if it was loved instead of feared. Loved? Voluntary cooperation is more efficient than forced compliance, Yuna explained. People work harder when they believe in what they're doing. Emperor Morthak was quiet for a long time. You suggest we change methods that have worked for centuries. Not change everything, Minho said, carefully. Just consider alternatives where appropriate. We're not trying to tell you how to run your empire, Hana added. We're just sharing what we've learned from our own experiences. And what have you learned? That cooperation usually works better than conquest, Jay said. In the long run, that diversity makes you stronger, not weaker, Yuna added. That most problems can be solved if people are willing to talk to each other, Minho concluded. The Emperor stood up from his throne. His massive form cast shadows across the chamber. You speak of weakness. We speak of efficiency, Minho replied, calmly. You would have us bow to our subjects? We would have you listen to them, Hana said. There's a difference. Emperor Morthak walked down from his throne and approached the humans. Up close, he was even more intimidating. His eyes glowed. With ancient power. Why do you help us? He asked. We could destroy your world, because helping each other is what intelligent species should do, Yuna said simply. And because your empire could be even greater than it already is, Minho added. The Emperor looked at each of them in turn. You are either very brave or very foolish. Probably both, Jay said with a smile. Emperor Morthak laughed. It was the first time anyone could remember hearing him laugh. Zephyra, he said to his counselor. Arrange quarters for our guests. Comfortable quarters. Yes, sire. And prepare a formal audience with the full council. I want to hear more of their ideas. Yes, sire. As the humans were escorted out, Emperor Morthak returned to his throne. For 300 years, he had ruled through fear and power. The humans had shown him something different, a species that had faced the same challenges he faced, but had found different solutions. Zephyra approached the throne. Sire, do you really intend to implement their suggestions? Some of them, the Emperor said thoughtfully. Their ideas have merit. The other council members will resist changes. Then we will convince them, or replace them. Zephyra nodded. And the humans? Keep them here. I want to learn more about their methods. They are prisoners? Emperor Morthak considered the question. No, I think they are consultants. The attack came without warning. War Prime Kesserak of the Nexor Collective had been planning this assault for years. Intelligence reports suggested the Korthak Empire was weak, distracted by internal rebellions and administrative inefficiency. The time was perfect to strike. The Nexor fleet emerged from hyperspace at 12 different locations simultaneously. Massive battleships opened fire on Imperial installations. Fighter squadrons swept through the outer systems, destroying everything they encountered. Within hours, 3 entire star systems had fallen. On the Imperial capital world, alarms screamed across the command center. Officers ran frantically between stations, trying to coordinate a response. Admiral Vexitar stood at the tactical display, watching red enemy markers spread across Imperial space like a plague. How many ships? He demanded. Over 3,000. Confirmed, his tactical officer reported. More are arriving every hour. Our response? The second fleet is moving to intercept, but they're outnumbered 4-1. Emperor Morthak strode into the command center, his presence commanding immediate attention. Behind him came High Counselor Zephyra and the human delegation. Report, the Emperor commanded. Admiral Vexitar gestured to the tactical display. Full-scale invasion, sire. The Nexor Collective has committed their entire military to this assault. They're hitting us on multiple fronts. Our defenses? Holding for now, but we're spread too thin. If they maintain this pressure, we'll lose the outer rim within days. Captain Minho stepped forward to study the tactical display. His crew gathered around him, examining the enemy positions with professional interest. Interesting strategy, Minho observed. Classic pincer movement with diversionary attacks to split your forces. You understand military tactics? Admiral Vextar asked. We've studied warfare extensively on Earth, Hana replied, pointing to the display. Though this formation has some obvious weaknesses. War Prime Kesserak appeared on the main screen via communication link. He was a massive creature covered in natural armor, with 4 arms and glowing red eyes. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship bustled with activity. Emperor Morthak, Kesserak's voice boomed. Your empire ends today. Surrender now, and I will allow your people to serve the collective as slaves. Never, Emperor Morthak replied. Kesserak's laugh was like grinding metal. Your forces are scattered and weak. Your subject species rebel against you. Your military is outdated. You cannot resist the might of the Nexor collective. We'll see about that, the Emperor said, then cut the connection. Admiral Vexitar turned to his staff. All available ships to rally at Point 7. We'll make our stand there. Wait, Minho said quietly. Everyone in the command center turned to look at him. If I may suggest, Minho continued, a direct confrontation might not be the best approach here. What do you mean? Admiral Vextar asked. Jay was studying the technical readouts of the enemy fleet. Their ships are powerful, but they're using a lot of energy. Those weapon systems must require massive power cores. So? Zephyra asked. So they'll need to refuel, Hana said, understanding immediately. A fleet that size can't operate indefinitely without supply lines. Yuna was examining the biological data on the Nexor species. And looking at their physiology, they'll need specific atmospheric conditions. They can't survive in environments that are too cold or too hot. Minho turned to the tactical display. How well do you know your own territory, Admiral? Every system, every planet, Vextar replied. Then you have advantages they don't, Minho said. You know where the supply depots are, where the repair facilities are located, which systems have the resources they need. You're suggesting we use our knowledge of local conditions against them, Emperor Morthak said, understanding immediately. Exactly, Minho replied. Let them advance into your territory, then cut their supply lines. Force them to fight on your terms, not theirs. Admiral Vextar looked at the display with new eyes. The asteroid fields in the Corvash system would disrupt their formations, and the solar storms in the Theta sector would interfere with their communications, Hana added, studying the star charts. The Nexor need high-temperature environments, Yuna observed. If you could lure them into the ice worlds of the outer rim, their efficiency would drop significantly. Jay was calculating power requirements. A fleet that size probably burns through fuel reserves in 3 days of heavy combat. If you could force them to fight continuously while blocking their resupply, they'd be stranded, Admiral Vextar finished. Emperor Morthak nodded slowly. A strategy of attrition rather than direct confrontation. We've used similar tactics on Earth, Minho explained. When facing a superior force, you use mobility and knowledge of local conditions to wear them down. The winter campaign against Napoleon, Hana said. The Russian strategy was to retreat and let the environment defeat the invaders. Guerrilla warfare in Vietnam, Jay added. Local knowledge defeating superior technology. Admiral Vextar was already modifying his battle plans. Instead of massing our forces for a single engagement, we spread them out. Hit-and-run attacks on their supply convoys. Use your smaller, faster ships, Minho suggested. They can strike and retreat before the enemy can respond. And coordinate with the local resistance movements, Yuna added. They know their home systems better than anyone. The very rebels we've been fighting could become our allies, Zephyra realized. Emperor Morthak considered this. You suggest we arm our enemies to fight a greater enemy? Temporary alliance, Minho said. Common threat, common cause. It's worked before, Hana added. During World War II, countries that had been enemies for centuries allied against fascism. Admiral Vextar was already issuing new orders. Ships that had been moving to mass formations scattered to smaller, more mobile groups. Messages went out to system governors, authorizing cooperation with local resistance cells. Supply depot commanders received orders to evacuate their facilities and deny them to the enemy. War Prime Kesserak appeared on screen again. Your ships retreat in terror. My victory is assured. We'll see, Emperor Morthak replied calmly. Over the next 3 days, the Nexor advance began to slow. Their supply convoys came under constant attack from Imperial raiders. Systems they conquered proved to be stripped of useful resources. Local populations, instead of submitting, launched coordinated resistance campaigns. Their fuel consumption is exactly what we predicted, Jay reported, monitoring the enemy fleet's energy signatures. They're operating at 60% efficiency. And they're having trouble with environmental conditions, Yuna added. Several of their ships have had to withdraw for atmospheric processing repairs. Hana was coordinating with Imperial fleet commanders across dozens of systems. The hit-and-run attacks are working. We're destroying their supply ships faster than they can replace them. Captain Minho stood with Admiral Vextar at the command center's main display. The red enemy markers that had seemed so threatening 3 days ago were now scattered and isolated. How did you know this would work? Vextar asked. Experience, Minho replied. Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We've learned that bigger doesn't always mean better. And sometimes the best strategy is not to fight at all, Hana added. Let your enemy defeat themselves. War Prime Kesserak's image appeared again, but this time he looked less confident. Emperor Morthak, I demand you face me in honorable combat. Honor, Emperor Morthak replied. You began this war with a surprise attack on civilian targets. Honor left when you chose aggression over diplomacy. Fight me directly, or I will destroy every world in your empire. You don't have the fuel for that, Jay said quietly, checking his calculations. At current consumption rates, his fleet will be dead in space within 12 hours. Emperor Morthak smiled. War Prime Kesserak, you have 2 choices. Withdraw your forces now, or lose them entirely when they run out of fuel in empty space. Kesserak's roar of rage echoed through the command center before he cut the connection. Within 6 hours, Nexor ships began withdrawing from Imperial space. Those that tried to continue fighting found themselves stranded without fuel or supplies. Some surrendered, others simply drifted powerless in space until Imperial recovery ships could reach them. Admiral Vextar looked at the tactical display, showing Nexor forces in full retreat. In 3 days, we defeated an enemy that should have conquered us. You had all the tools you needed, Minho said. You just needed a different perspective on how to use them. Emperor Morthak turned to the humans. You have given us victory, without requiring us to sacrifice our honor or our principles. You did all the fighting, Yuna pointed out. We just offered suggestions. Suggestions that saved our empire? Zephyra added. Emperor Morthak nodded thoughtfully. Captain Minho, I have a proposition for you. Yes, Your Majesty. How would you feel about a permanent position as military advisor to the Korthak Empire? Minho looked at his crew. They all nodded. We'd be honored, Your Majesty, he said, though we might suggest some changes to your current military structure. Emperor Morthak laughed. I'm beginning to expect that from humans. 6 months after the Nexor invasion, the Korthak Empire looked very different. The changes had started slowly, but once Emperor Morthak began implementing human suggestions, the transformation accelerated rapidly. Captain Minho stood in what used to be called the Ministry of Conquered Territories. The name had been changed to the Department of Interspecies Relations. Instead of military officers enforcing imperial will, the department now employed diplomats, cultural specialists, and economic advisors. The rebellion in the Outer Rim officially ended yesterday, reported Subcommander Dalnin, who now held the title of Regional Coordinator. The local governments have agreed to remain part of the Empire in exchange for autonomy over domestic affairs. Any problems with the transition? Minho asked. None, sir. The new federal structure is working exactly as you predicted. Local control. Over local issues. Imperial oversight for major policies. Dr. Park Yuna entered the office carrying a stack of reports. As the Empire's new Director of Cultural Affairs, she had been busy establishing exchange programs between different species. The Veltar Restoration Project is ahead of schedule, she announced. Their homeworld should be fully rehabilitated within 2 years. The species we supposedly eliminated? Dalnin asked. It turns out there were survivors, Yuna explained. Hidden colonies, refugee populations on other worlds. We're helping them rebuild their civilization. The Emperor approved this? It was his idea, Minho said. He decided that bringing back extinct species would demonstrate the Empire's commitment to redemption rather than destruction. Engineer Kim Jae arrived with his usual collection of technical reports. As the Empire's chief of infrastructure development, he had been redesigning everything from starship engines to planetary communication networks. The new hyperspace relay network is operational, he announced. Communication delays between the capital and the outer systems have been reduced by 70%. How are the efficiency improvements going? Minho asked. Better than expected. The streamlined ship designs are 30% faster and use 40% less fuel. The standardized supply chains have reduced logistics costs across the entire military. Navigator Choi Hana joined them, carrying star charts and population reports. As Director of Strategic Planning, she had been coordinating the Empire's expansion into diplomacy rather than conquest. The Andorian Federation has agreed to a trade alliance, she reported. 3 more species have requested membership in the Empire as autonomous regions. Voluntary membership, Dalnan asked, still adjusting to the new concepts. They want the economic benefits and mutual defense, but they keep their own governments, Hana explained. It's more profitable than conquest and requires no military expenditure. A communication alert sounded, and Emperor Morthak's image appeared on the wall screen. The throne room behind him had been remodeled. The bone throne was gone, replaced by a more practical chair. The intimidating darkness had been replaced with better lighting for conducting actual business. Report on the Earth delegation's arrival, the Emperor commanded. They should arrive within the hour, Your Majesty, Hana replied. 12 ships carrying diplomats, scientists, and trade representatives. Are they prepared for the cultural exchange protocols? Dr. Park has briefed them thoroughly, Minho assured him. They understand that this is a partnership, not a conquest. Emperor Morthak nodded. Good. I want them to see what we have accomplished. Together. The first Earth ships arrived exactly on schedule. Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Alliance Diplomatic Corps stepped off her shuttle with obvious amazement. The Korthak capital had been transformed from a monument to military power into a bustling center of interspecies cooperation. This is not what I expected, she admitted to Minho as they walked through the spaceport. What did you expect? He asked. Frankly, a rescue mission. When we received your message about accidentally entering an alien empire, we assumed you were prisoners. We were initially, Yuna said, but it turned out they needed management consultants more than they needed prisoners. The tour of the capital impressed the Earth delegation. They saw Korthak, human, Veltar, and a dozen other species working together in government offices, research facilities, and commercial centers. How did you manage this transformation so quickly? Asked Dr. Martinez, Earth's chief xenobiologist. The Emperor was already looking for better ways to govern, Jay explained. We just provided some alternative approaches. And it turns out that most species prefer cooperation to conquest, Hana added. Once you give them a choice. The formal meeting took place in the Imperial Council chamber. Emperor Morthak sat at the head of a round table surrounded by representatives from 43 different species. The humans from the Resilience sat as equal partners in the discussion. Earth delegation, the Emperor began. You are welcome. In our empire, your people have shown us new ways to build civilization based on cooperation rather than domination. Captain Chen stood to respond. Your Majesty, on behalf of the Earth Alliance, we're honored to establish diplomatic relations with the Korthak Empire, the Korthak Federation, High Counselor Zephyra corrected gently. We changed the name to better reflect our new structure. A federation? Autonomous regions with shared defense and economic policies, Emperor Morthak explained. Your captain, Minho, suggested the model based on human historical examples. And it's been remarkably successful, added Ambassador Kell then, a former interrogator who now served as the Federation's chief diplomatic officer. Voluntary cooperation is far more efficient than forced compliance. The Earth delegation spent 3 days touring Federation facilities. They visited research stations where multiple species worked together on scientific projects. They saw trade centers where species that had been enemies for centuries now conducted profitable business. They attended cultural festivals, celebrating the diversity of Federation membership. This is unprecedented, Captain Chen reported to Earth. They've created a truly interspecies civilization. What role do you want us to play? Admiral Kim asked during a private meeting with the human crew. That's up to Earth, Minho replied. We're staying here to help with the ongoing development, but this could be the beginning of something much larger. Larger how? The Federation is interested in expanding through diplomacy rather than conquest, Yuna explained. They're looking for new member species who want to be part of something bigger. A galactic community based on mutual benefit rather than domination, Hana added. Jay pulled up a holographic display showing star charts. There are thousands of species in this region of the galaxy. Most of them are isolated, vulnerable to threats like the Nexor Collective. A defensive alliance would benefit everyone. Emperor. Morthak joined their discussion. Captain Minho, I have been thinking about our future expansion. Yes, Your Majesty. I want to establish what you humans call diplomatic missions to neighboring species. Peaceful contact, cultural exchange, offers of mutual assistance. Instead of conquest fleets, Minho said approvingly. Exactly. And I want human crews to lead these missions. Human crews? You have a gift for making contact with suspicious species, Zephyra explained. Other races find you non-threatening. You mean ordinary, Jay said with a smile. I mean effective, the Emperor corrected. You treat extraordinary situations as routine problems to be solved. This makes other species comfortable with you. Captain Chen looked around the table. You're asking Earth to become part of a galactic diplomatic corps? We're asking Earth to become a founding member of a galactic federation, Emperor Morthak said. Equal partners in building something that has never existed before. A peaceful galactic civilization, Yuna added. Based on cooperation, mutual defense, and shared prosperity, Hana continued. It's a big opportunity, Minho said, and a big responsibility. Captain Chen was quiet for a long time. I'll need to discuss this with Earth's government. Of course, the Emperor said. Take all the time you need. 3 weeks later, the Earth Alliance voted to join the Korthak Federation as its second founding member. Within a year, 12 more species had joined voluntarily. Within 5 years, the Federation included over 100 species across 3,000 star systems. Captain Minho stood on the observation deck of the new Federation headquarters, watching ships from dozens of different species arrive and depart. The building itself was a symbol of the new galactic order, designed by committee with input from every member species, efficient rather than intimidating, welcoming rather than threatening. Any regrets? Dr. Park asked, joining him at the window. About what? Taking a wrong turn at Andromeda and accidentally starting a galactic revolution? Minho smiled. It's been interesting. Jay and Hana joined them. Through the window, they could see construction crews working on a new research station. Korthak engineers worked alongside human scientists, Veltar artists, and a dozen other species. Think it will last? Jay asked. Nothing lasts forever, Hana said practically. But it's a good start. Better than what was here before, Yuna added. A message appeared on the wall screen. It was from the exploration ship Discovery, which had just made contact with a previously unknown species called the Zephyrians. Captain Minho, the message read, the Zephyrians are interested in learning about the Federation. They're as